Sawadee Ka, Nai video ni rao dern tang pratet Thai. In this video we are traveling to Thailand. You have probably heard about Queen Sirikit of Thailand and you have heard about Pierre Balmain, but did you know that Pierre Balmain was actually in charge of Her Majesty's wardrobe for over 20 years, and much more than that? Together they put Thailand on the global fashion map, and they also heavily influenced contemporary Thai national dress. Today I'm going to look into the details of this royal collaboration and also royal friendship, and I actually got the idea when I visited the Queen Sirikit Museum of Textiles in Bangkok earlier this year. I actually wanted to see Her Majesty's outfits because I was really curious, and then I learned about this professional relationship and also friendship with Pierre Balmain. I thought this is a perfect topic that I can share with you here. And if you're traveling to Thailand or if you're based in Bangkok, I highly recommend visiting the Queen Sirikit Museum of Textiles. It's usually not on the typical tourist itineraries, but I found it very interesting because you can learn a lot about Her Majesty's outfits, also the messages that can be transported via fashion, but also you can learn a lot about textiles in Thailand and the fashion industry in Thailand overall. I would also like to thank the Queen Sirikit Museum for the support for the private tour that I received in Bangkok, and also for all the information supplied for this video and my article on the pinklookbook.com. And just as a side note here, this is a non-sponsored video. I'm just sharing my personal opinion and my research here, and this is about the fashion only. I only focus on the outfits and this collaboration between Her Majesty and Pierre Balmain. How did a French couturier end up working for the Queen of Thailand? It all started with a royal tour. In 1960, the King of Thailand, King Bhumibol, and his young wife, Queen Sirikit, planned an extensive trip to America and also 14 European states. It was their formal introduction to the West. Both were familiar with America and Europe because the king was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and was later raised in Switzerland. Also, the Queen had spent many years in Europe, and this trip was very much focused on America. It was a political trip, needless to say, and there were quite a few high-level events. For example, President Eisenhower welcomed them officially at the White House. There was also a dinner at the White House. The king then addressed the Congress. There was a parade in New York City, and there were also public visits of many institutions and organizations. So needless to say, this was closely monitored by the American administration and also the Thai government. So this trip was politically motivated, but you will see fashion played a very big role during this trip. And this story is so interesting to tell because it shows the power of fashion. Very often fashion is being dismissed as superficial, which it can be. But in many cases, it also shows that it can transport important messages, that it has a lot of power. And Queen Sirikit, Her Majesty, knew about this power. She used her wardrobe to connect with people around the world. And she was actually right, because this trip was heavily covered by the press, and a lot of people focused not so much on the politics, but more on her wardrobe. She was in newspapers, fashion magazines, designers got inspired by her wardrobe. Everybody seemed to be talking about her, and this was not only during the time of the trip. For a very long time afterwards, she became kind of a fashion icon. She still is, not only in Thailand, but also globally, and it became such a topic that Her Majesty was actually worried for some time that people would only focus on her clothes. They would only think in terms of fashion about the Queen of Thailand, and that they would not see what other topics she was interested in or which other topics she was working on. Looking back, I don't really think there was a reason to worry, because until today, Her Majesty, yes, is associated with fashion, but also with the many charitable organizations supported by her, and also especially the empowerment of women and artisans in Thailand. Needless to say, the wardrobe for such a tour had to be meticulously planned, not only every single outfit that Her Majesty was going to wear, but also the there are a lot of details in terms of formal etiquette that had to be considered. And I mentioned in the introduction, Pierre Balmain was in charge for this first tour, for the wardrobe of this first tour, but then it extended into a 20-year-long professional relationship, but also into a friendship. And there's a quote by Her Majesty where she even calls him a dear friend. This is a big honor, and what you're going to see when we look into the wardrobe for this tour, but also the outfits later on, you can definitely see Pierre Balmain's handwriting, and it's very strong in the beginning. It stays there until the end, but what is becoming more and more visible is also the handwriting and the confidence of Her Majesty herself. At the time of this royal tour, it was common for first ladies, royal representatives or monarchs to collaborate with designers of their home country or with the couturiers from Paris. So, for example, Elizabeth II worked with Norman Hartnell, Jacqueline Kennedy wore Oleg Cassini or Halston, or also Hubert de Givenchy, so you see this mix. But there was a problem. In Thailand in the 1960s, there was no globally known fashion designer, and Her Majesty's dressmaker Aurelium Rung, I hope I said the name correctly, then also advised Her Majesty and said that the dressmakers from Thailand would first of all have issues working with fabrics from the West, or also even producing garments that they are not used to. You don't need gloves or overcoats in Thailand, so they would struggle with this. And furthermore, they would also struggle with understanding the etiquette throughout this trip, also the royal etiquette when it comes to Western clothing. So he suggested to work with a Western designer to get support. And also the Thai government was supportive of that, and they actually initially suggested to work with the House of Dior, but then Her Majesty and also King Bhumibol then decided for Pierre Balmain. But why Balmain? You have the choice of Dior, and we would imagine probably they need to call up in Paris and establish their relationship, but it was kind of an accidental meeting, I would say, because Pierre Balmain was actually traveling to Australia and then traveled back to France via Bangkok. And there he met with an influential French interior designer called François Duhaut de Berenx. I hope I said this name correctly also. It took me quite some time to remember that long name. And they frequently met in Bangkok, and during this time and probably through Duhaut de Berenx, he met Jim Thompson. Maybe you have heard about Jim Thompson. Today it's a well-known brand producing mainly silk products, and Jim Thompson was an American expat in Thailand, in Bangkok. He was also the co-founder of the famous Oriental Hotel in Bangkok, which was the very first hotel in the city, and he founded a silk business. There are also rumors about him that he may have been a CIA agent. If you're interested in that story, I can also do another video about him, so let me know in the comments below. And it is likely that Pierre Balmain met Aurelium Rung through either his French contacts, through Duhaut de Berenx, or through Jim Thompson. We don't know this, but the fact is that he was recommended to Her Majesty because Her Majesty's dressmaker thought that Pierre Balmain would work really well because his garments were simple but at the same time elegant and would be a great fit for a queen. And speaking of fit for a queen, this is also the name of the book I used for the research of this video. So I did online research, I visited the museum, and I also used the exhibition catalog of the most recent exhibition, Decades of Style, which you can still visit. But Fit for a Queen gives you the best overview, in my opinion, of this friendship and professional relationship between Pierre Balmain and Her Majesty. So I said before, in 1959 he traveled through Bangkok back to Paris, and in October of the same year he came back to meet with Her Majesty, and after that meeting the king officially awarded Balmain the responsibility to design the wardrobe for the tour. And there are quotes by Pierre Balmain about this. There is one quote where he said, "It is a joy to design for a queen," and in another quote he said this was one of the most marvelous assignments that a couturier could hope to have. I do not want to cover all the details of Pierre Balmain's CV here, but if you want me to do another video about him, please let me know in the comments below. Here I'm just focusing on some key points that are interesting for us in terms of this collaboration with Her Majesty. So in the 1930s, he started to work for Molineux, and we can tell the influence by this couturier when we look at the simplicity, also at the flowers, and also sometimes when he uses a lot of the color beige. Later on, he worked for Lucien Lelong. Also, Christian Dior worked for Lucien Lelong. Lucien Lelong was the head of the Chambre syndicale de la haute couture. And from Lelong, but also from Molineux, Pierre Balmain learned how to run a big couture business and also a big fashion brand. He founded his own maison in 1945, and some said that his first collection was influenced by the East. So I don't know if he already knew that in the future he would have a long-lasting collaboration with the Far East. By the 1960s, he employed around 600 people, so this was a very big business, and he expanded it internationally. He also had royal clients, and this was probably something that also reassured the Queen of Thailand. Now let's talk about the outfits. At the time, it was normal for couture clients that they visit the couturier 3 times for fittings. Needless to say, this happened in his atelier in Paris. But we are talking here about royalty. So Pierre Balmain flew to Thailand for the fittings. It is assumed that he took the measurements already in 1959. Probably he also sourced the fabrics at the time. And it is assumed that he only started to design the wardrobe for the royal tour after he finished his spring 1960 collection. So this would also mean that Her Majesty had access to the collection of spring-summer 1960. And this is exactly what happened. Her Majesty chose at least 9 outfits from that collection. Some were customized in terms of color, for example, and the rest of the wardrobe for this tour was bespoke, so they were custom tailored for Her Majesty. And the process was then that the sketches were sent back and forth. I don't know if you have ever seen correspondence when it comes to haute couture garments. Some museums exhibit that. It's quite interesting. It's very often the sketch with some notes, and then the client sends the notes back. Unfortunately, the correspondence regarding the collaboration between Pierre Balmain and Her Majesty is not public, so we can only assume what happened. And in this context, about using that collection, I would like to point out one outfit. It's from later, long after the tour. It's with Lesage embroidery. It's very colorful. It looks like mirror work when you look at it. And this same outfit was seen in 1973 on another client. So this meant that Pierre Balmain did not automatically retire a design or an outfit once Her Majesty chose it. And creating such a wardrobe was a big affair, needless to say, not only for Pierre Balmain and his whole team, but also for the Thai court. So Her Majesty had a team of advisors at the Thai court for her wardrobe. And the Thai court, the team of advisors, and also Her Majesty were not unfamiliar with Western fashion. Even the official wardrobe for the Thai court had evolved from 1850 until 1930. You could see a development away from the Thai traditional dress with a lot of wrappings and drapings towards a more Western-oriented wardrobe. And when it comes to Her Majesty, she was not only passionate about working with Balmain and passionate about fashion, she wanted to display the Thai identity. And this is something which we are going to see developed a lot from this very first wardrobe for the tour until the end of their collaboration, or even further on. This Thai identity became stronger and stronger. For this first tour, the Thai influences were a bit more subtle. For example, Pierre Balmain incorporated Thai silk, which was sourced via his friend Jim Thompson, so the circle is closing. Pierre Balmain collaborated with the House of Lesage in Paris for the embroideries, and they took inspiration from Thai art, for example, for their embroideries. And this Thai identity, which becomes stronger and stronger over time, is sometimes more or less subtle. There's this example from 1962, a shift dress in white or cream with the Thai flag around the waist. It's not my most favorite item because it is very literal, but it also shows how he tried to incorporate the Thai identity into the wardrobe. So I mentioned already Pierre Balmain was flying back and forth between Paris and Bangkok, and he brought the wardrobe in person, most likely in 1960, after some Louis Vuitton trunks were delivered directly to him. Louis Vuitton made the trunks for the tour. They all had the royal cipher and also the flag on the trunks, and they were also numbered. I will come back later to this detail. This is quite important to remember that. Pierre Balmain had already sent many of his supplies to Bangkok in advance. He was also accompanied by Erik Mortensen, who was his head fitter, and they stayed in Bangkok for 3 weeks. Every second day in the afternoon they had fittings with Her Majesty, and we can assume that the design and the embroidery had been finished in Paris, and then the clothes were at least cut and basted and brought to Bangkok. The wardrobe for this trip involved daytime attire, cocktail dresses, evening attire, overcoats, and also Thai national dress. And Pierre Balmain knew his brief very well because he wanted to make the queen look elegant, not antiquated, and he also wanted to give her an identifiable silhouette. And this is what we can clearly see. So it's his signature, but then we also see the development in fashion. So the dresses were still very much 1950s style, this waistline of the 1950s, but with the coats, we can already see what was going on in the 1960s. And one interesting detail relates to the jackets. They were worn open. So the inner lining was very important, and very often Balmain paired the inner lining of the jackets with the blouses. And maybe this sounds familiar because I also mentioned this in my video about Coco Chanel, who also had the same approach. And there's one beautiful example of this lining where he took it to the next level. It's not only the fabric that he matched, but also the embroidery kind of creates this seamless transition from outer jacket to lining. And coming back to the coats, which already show us what was going on in fashion, there's this beautiful example, this wider cut coat with the black and white plaid pattern. Her Majesty wore that in July in New York and in October in Rome. It looked really modern, it looked fresh, but still elegant and suitable for a queen. And with the evening attire, we can clearly see Pierre Balmain's handwriting and also his passion for the 18th century, which he also shared with Lesage. So we have this evening gown with floral embroidery, and then also this other evening gown with the silver embroidery. I think this is an even better example of his passion for the 18th century. There is one fashion trend which was avoided by Her Majesty and also by Pierre Balmain. We don't see strapless dresses. One theory could be that it was too revealing for a queen. The second reason could also be that she needed an anchor for her sash of ranks, which she very often wore. So a lot of this was Western attire, but the Thai identity was also very important. On the one hand, Her Majesty wore the Thai national dress, but also, I mentioned it before, the incorporation of the Thai silk was very important. So this was a key message. But it's also interesting to look at the media coverage. Some journalists misunderstood this key message, or they blew it out of proportion. For example, they said things like the wardrobe, the royal wardrobe, was matching the colors of the Thai week, which is not confirmed neither by the Thai court nor by Pierre Balmain. So this is also something that the journalists came up with. When we look at the accessories, hats, fur coats, trims, stoles, they were made in-house by Balmain. The shoes were made by René Mancini, who worked with a lot of the couturiers, and we also have to keep in mind this was the time when it was very common that every single, especially couture outfit, needed their own pair of shoes. This was before the revolution by Coco Chanel, when she introduced her two-tone shoe that also matched several outfits. And also gloves were very popular at the time, and Pierre Balmain actually advised Her Majesty to wear white gloves because they would be the most versatile. Sometimes there are also black ones, but mostly she wore white because it matched all the different outfits and colors. Her Majesty independently sourced some accessories from other designers, for example Dior, who I mentioned before, but most of it was Balmain. And a key element is also Pierre Balmain's collaboration with Lesage for his embroideries. And the process for creating the bespoke outfits for Her Majesty was the following. Lesage sent their designs to Balmain. He then had to confirm them. Once everything was confirmed, the textiles were cut, and then the pieces were sent to Lesage for embroidery. Then they came back, and then the garment was put together. And some details, for example, embroideries on the seams, were only added after the garment was constructed. The outfits for this tour were a mix of Balmain's signature design language and also the Thai influence. Most of these outfits had Western cuts, except the Thai national dress, of course. And he worked a lot with Thai silk and metal thread brocade. There's also this beautiful dress in gold with a blush pink Thai silk. And there was also one gold dress which was sketched in many magazines, also with the signature Thai gold belt. And Lesage came up with different types of embroidery, not only for the Western textiles, but also for the Thai textiles. For example, when they worked with silk and gold metal thread brocade, they referenced the pattern of this Thai textile in their embroideries. They used this, for example, for Thai style garments, using Western textiles, for example, for one of the outfits that Her Majesty wore on an official visit later on in 1967 to Iran. And very often Balmain took Thai motifs and then referenced them in the embroidery in a different scale. And there's also one really nice example where they use Thai motifs, but they are arranged in the 18th century fashion. So again, we see the passion of Balmain and also Lesage for the 18th century, while still incorporating the Thai identity. For at least one of the traditional Thai dresses for Her Majesty, they used the jewel beetle from northeastern Thailand. And I actually spotted this beetle on another outfit at the museum. It was this white outfit from the 1990s, and it had these green, beautiful details. And you would not think that this is coming from a beetle, but the way it works is that this beetle has to die a natural death, and then the wings harden, and then they can be used for embroidery. So how did this tour go? They left Thailand on the 14th of June 1960, and Her Majesty was wearing a Thai national dress. But when they landed, or before they landed in Honolulu, she changed into a pink silk dress by Balmain. And this switch from national dress to Western attire is a topic that was repeated throughout this tour. For her support, she also had 2 ladies in waiting for all of her outfits and 1 lady in waiting for all of her jewelry, which were family heirlooms, needless to say. And during this whole tour, Her Majesty sometimes changed outfits 4 times per day. So I already said before, meticulous planning was needed. Maybe you remember the Louis Vuitton trunks, the numbered ones. So these numbers corresponded to the lists provided by Pierre Balmain so that they could plan all of these outfits so that nothing went wrong during the tour. And it was quite complicated because they visited different countries and regions with different weather conditions. You can't compare Honolulu to New York or Switzerland. Balmain even supplied fabric swatches, and it got a bit easier once the couple reached Switzerland, because then they had their base in Lausanne, and from there they did the official visits. And this also meant that Pierre Balmain and also Eric Mortensen and also Madame Ambrosine, who was the première, the head of the atelier, they could come to Switzerland and then do fittings and also work on further outfits. In October 1960, the couple also went to visit Paris briefly, and this was also the first and the last time that Her Majesty visited Pierre Balmain at his atelier, and in honor of the Queen of Thailand, he also hosted a private runway show. While the local media in Thailand focused more on the political impact of this royal tour, the international media went crazy about the clothes, not only in the countries that they visited, it was global news also long after the trip had ended. Even in 1964, magazines and newspaper articles focused on the fashion from that tour. And this also meant that Her Majesty became a fashion icon. In 1964, she made it onto the best dress list by Eleanor Lambert. Eleanor Lambert I mentioned in my video about the history of Fashion Week. She had a big impact on fashion in America, but also globally. And in 1965, Her Majesty made it into the Best Dressed Hall of Fame. And in the same year, there was also a 10-page editorial in American Vogue about the Thai court. And also Balmain's designs were featured in many fashion magazines. For example, one of his orange ensembles was featured in L'Officier de la Mode. Another ensemble in yellow was featured in L'Art et la Mode. And I would like to point something out here for those of you who are not too familiar with Thailand. Yellow plays a very prominent role, not only in the wardrobe for this tour, but also later on. Quite a few designs by Pierre Balmain are yellow, and yellow is also the color of the Thai king, so I don't think it's a coincidence that yellow is very prominent in Her Majesty's wardrobe. This tour was the longest, but it was not the only one. In the 1960s, they visited further countries. For example, in 1964, they came to Austria, and in 1966, they visited the UK and Western Germany. And I already mentioned before, in 1967, they visited Iran. In the same year, they also went back to America. Long after the tour, throughout the 1960s, Pierre Balmain kept traveling to Thailand for fittings with Her Majesty. And there was also one thing that I didn't mention before when it came to the journalists. I said that the journalists blew a lot of things out of proportion, and one thing that many journalists focused on was the outfits, that it seemed that Her Majesty only wore every outfit once. So it may have been true for the region that she visited, that there she only wore every outfit once, but actually Her Majesty re-wore a lot of her Balmain outfits, or her outfits in general. In the 1960s, Madame Leclerc, the head fitter of Balmain, regularly came to Thailand to alter outfits or repair them. So when we read now that royals like Princess Kate are re-wearing certain outfits, it's actually nothing new. This has been something that Her Majesty has been doing for a very long time. Let's now look at this Thai identity and how much more confident Her Majesty became in incorporating this. So I said for this first tour, the Thai identity was a bit more subtle, and then over time it became stronger and stronger. And especially in the 1970s, Her Majesty started to incorporate Thai traditional textiles, and these textiles are not like the expensive silk brocade. They are a bit rougher, we could say, or they have bigger patterns. And this also meant that Pierre Balmain and Lesage had to change their strategy. They could not mirror those patterns that much anymore. It would have been too messy. So they then started to work more with motifs influenced by Thai art, for example, which I have mentioned before. And this incorporation of Thai traditional textiles becomes more and more over time. In the 1960s and 70s, Her Majesty started to collaborate with artisans in Isan, in northeastern Thailand. On the one hand, it was because she wanted to integrate the textile, but on the other hand, she also had a mission. She wanted to empower women. And in general, the king and the queen did the projects together. When they went to Isan, this region in northeastern Thailand, for example, the king then focused on the men, on the farmers to give them opportunities, and the queen focused on the women, on the artisans, so they could have a sustainable income. So this incorporation of the Thai textiles became more and more, especially of the so-called mat mi. You might know it under ikat. And this is a very popular traditional textile, but over time its popularity decreased a bit. This is also natural development. Less locals were interested in the traditional textiles. They also wanted more and more of the Western wardrobe. So on the one hand, she incorporated those textiles to give female artisans an opportunity. On the other hand, she also kind of revived a textile that was kind of unpopular at the time. So she made it more popular again in Thailand and also put it on the global fashion map. And I have two examples here. This one from 1972, it incorporates the ikat, and you can see it kind of feels that Balmain hadn't found his groove with this textile yet. Also the second example, I don't want to sound mean, but it looks a bit frumpy. But then later on, there's a beautiful example from 1979, where the silhouette works really well with that Thai traditional textile. Also the embroidery works really well, and it was actually made by Erik Mortensen, and some people assume that Her Majesty then collaborated more than with Mortensen because he was more open to that textile than Pierre Balmain actually was. And this may have been the reason why Erik Mortensen and not Pierre Balmain traveled to Thailand in 1980 to discuss mat mi or ikat garments for the official state visit to Japan. This mat mi or ikat textile is one of the examples, but there are many more. And one other beautiful one that I discovered at the exhibition Decades of Style was a coat made from the outer coat of the silk cocoon. So the way it usually works with silk is that the finest silk is from the most inner part of the cocoon, and then usually people get rid of the outer parts because the silk is very coarse, so it looks rough. But the philosophy of Her Majesty is that nothing should be wasted. So she had coats made from that rough outer silk, and I actually think it works really well. It looks really interesting and chic. And I would like to briefly come back to the reflection of fashion trends. One fashion trend which was not really reflected in Her Majesty's wardrobe was pants. You may have watched my other video about the capri pants in the 1960s and 70s. These types of pants became more and more popular. This also goes along with the female empowerment of the time. So there are some outfits that also involved pants, but if Her Majesty wore pants, they were usually wider legged, and then also they were very often covered with another piece of fabric. And one reason could be that at the time it was not considered appropriate for a queen to wear pants. So we also have to put it in the context of time. In the 1960s and 70s we have this forward movement for women, but still a lot of places, among them for example Harrods in London, prohibited women to enter the building when they wore pants. So if we then look it through the lens of a queen, the last thing the couple wanted was to create an outcry. So of course it is not a surprise that we don't see that many pants in the wardrobe of the time. And the last thing that I would like to share with you here is something that I learned when I visited the museum. I knew about the Thai national dress, but I had no idea about the influence of Her Majesty and also Pierre Balmain on this Thai national dress. So the Thai national dress has a very long history. For example, it was also worn at the court of King Chulalongkorn in the second half of the 19th century. And then it got a bit unpopular, I would say, because Thais found it more and more difficult to wrap this Thai national dress around them or drape it around them, so they wanted more practical solutions. So already in the 1950s, Her Majesty wanted to make the Thai national dress popular again, and she worked on contemporary solutions with her team. But from 1963, Pierre Balmain and Les Sages then took over to help Her Majesty to create the 8 different styles of the national dress as we know it today. And this also involved pre-tailored solutions similar to Western garments, but it kind of also reminds me of the pre-tailored saris, the Indian saris. And one of the versions was also worn by Her Majesty for the state visit in Austria in 1964. And this was my video about the friendship between a French couturier and a queen. I really look forward to your comments. What do you think about this? Did you know about this story? Did you know that Pierre Balmain created so many outfits for the Queen of Thailand? Have you visited the Queen Sirikit Museum in Bangkok? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, and if you could also subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in reading more fashion related articles, you can head over to my website, thepinklookbook.com, and you can also check out my fashion label Pelagona. And talking about 1960s fashion, and I also briefly mentioned women's rights at the time, I have another video which may be interesting for you, where I share more about the capri pants, which were invented by a trailblazing woman. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and see you in the next one.